Hello, 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 hello. It is Tuesday. It is time for another stream. Today, we're gonna do something different. You know, last few weeks, just like yesterday, I guess you could say, just like unlike the last 3 weeks, we're gonna do you know, I guess this week we're gonna do like individual topics. We have one more day where we're gonna do something else. Like we're gonna, you know, do a certain topic, and then on Thursday we're gonna do the next personal feedback session. Today what we're going to do is we're going to go into the, I like to call it mental steps when sculpting in Blender. So basically everything that at least I think about when I, you know, do a sculpt, from going to selecting references to analyzing it, and then you're all the way to the end until we reach, you know, the final result, basically going into detail, you know, into a little bit of detail for the sculpt too. And yeah, basically exploring the entire workflow just to kind of see what we can yeah, clear up maybe, or you know, kind of yeah, I just want to kind of, I guess, explain how I think about sculpting and how I do it. So that's going to be today's topic. We can see we only have, I mean, we not only have one topic, of course, we have two, as always. We have the quick sketch in the beginning, which you can see right there. So we're going to do a 30-minute quick sketch in Blender before we begin with today's topic, and then we can get straight into today's topic. Yeah, I mean, there's not really that much more to talk about, or to introduce, let's say. So let's get straight into Blender and look at today's reference. I don't even know if I've imported it already. I didn't. Okay, hold on. Come on, where are you? There you are. Okay. We have another group sketch, let's say, but we're not going to do all of them, of course. We're going to do this friend here. This one's today's quick sketch. We've done some I guess dinosaurs before, but never really, I guess, like more. We only ever really like sort of like realistic, or I guess more badass looking ones. So this one's going to be a little bit more, I guess, comic-y. Yeah, so that's going to be today's quick sketch reference, which we're going to try to sort of recreate, or at least use as inspiration, at least. Yeah, I don't think there's any much more to explain, actually. I don't know. Okay, yep. I think we're ready to go. I think we're ready to begin with the quick sketch. I think my pen is ready. Where's my timer? There it is. Yeah, now after, you know, after finishing Caitlin, we I didn't want to do like immediately go into another long project, so I thought, you know, maybe this week we could do some smaller projects. Like yesterday we did the tattoos, how you can create big tattoos, and today, you know, we're gonna go over the process of sculpting. Yeah, so the sphere is ready, my pen is ready, hopefully you are ready. I am definitely ready. So let me start the timer, and then we can begin in 3, 2, 1, go. Perfect. Okay, let's go. And right when the timer begins, Kutu's joining the stream. Welcome. Hope you enjoyed your day so far. Hope you enjoyed your Tuesday. Okay, yeah. Oh, that's the wrong direction, and I completely removed my entire ball. Nice. There it is. So yeah, so you know, what I basically want to do today is, I always talk sort of about what I think about when I do these quick sketches. So I kind of wanted to do like one stream where I kind of, I guess, go through the whole process, and you know, sort of narrate it, I guess, and you know, just kind of explain my thinking when it comes to sculpting and how I think about it, and not only covering sort of the process, like, oh, if you do this, or like the not only covering like the technical steps, but actually going through and also covering what I, you know, what I'm thinking about, what is maybe like a good practice maybe, or how I do things when it comes to the how I use my brushes, why I use them that way, to kind of yeah, maybe help if somebody wants to start using Blender sculpting, kind of, I guess, maybe use that as a guide. I don't know. I always, when I want to learn a new project, I always love to have like very, very in-depth tutorials, not only explaining like what you should do, but also explaining why. So yeah, that's sort of why I want to do this. You know, I could also just make like a tutorial like, hey, you know, you should use these brushes before this or whatever. But I would rather, yeah, do something a little bit different. Maybe next week we're going to do another bigger project. We'll see. I actually have one, or I have one planned, but I haven't sort of thought about it as much yet. But I have one idea that we might do. And then the week after is Christmas, right? But we have one more week, like one more full week until the festivities begin, where we can do some stuff. Well, wait, Christmas is on Friday, right? So it's not really like there's no like I'll see what I'll do. Maybe the Christmas week I'll yeah, I'll see what we can do. I haven't really planned anything that far ahead. Okay. There you go. You can even see he has like a sort of hairline with these sort of spikes in the back. So I kind of want to keep that in there too. There you go. Okay, what I like about this one is sort of the, usually most of the time dinosaurs always have like a big upper jaw and then a big small lower jaw. But this one is the exact opposite. That's why I like this one. Also because it, you know, it's quite opposite to what I usually did for like dragon or dinosaur sculpts. That's why I chose this one. And it looked kind of funny. If you haven't noticed yet. Maybe, you know, maybe you don't think it looks funny. Maybe you think it's looks very scary. If that's the case, then I guess you can have your opinion. There you go. Look at him. You know what this dude reminds me of? There are two characters that this guy reminds me of. One of them is the character from the DuckTales. I think the pilot, I don't remember what his name was, but he also, like, it was this huge, I think it was like a goose with like this huge jaw. And then the other one was from Rayman, I think 2. There was another one that has like this huge chin. I can't remember what the character's name was. I also remember, like, I think it was like a super strong character and you had to kind of free him for him to open some new passages. So that's why, like, why he even exists, basically. And yeah, those are like the two characters that this this guy reminds me of. I actually want to, let's make it a little bit thinner here. There you go, make this chin really stand out here. Nice. Okay, kind of looks like a pelican. I think we also need to make the eyes a little bit, they need to point outwards more. Right now they face inwards pretty much. So if you pull it out a little bit, they kind of point outwards more. That's also why, like, So usually like deers or whatever look kind of derpy if you look at them from the front, because they look in two directions. It's beneficial to them for survival, but it's not really like aesthetic, I guess. It's aesthetically pleasing or good looking, depending on maybe, you know, who you ask, I guess. I actually kind of want to make his neck sort of, yeah, similar to this one. Very thin, very lengthy. Maybe even add some flapping skin or whatever to make it kind of look kind of weird, or yeah, weird mostly. Let's see. I actually kind of want to put it, should we, no, I think I like it. I want to put it further back. I think that's usually how sort of dinosaurs are portrayed. Of course, I don't know what they look like in real life. Well, yeah. So, you know, you can look at skeletons, but you know, even then, do they have feathers? Do they not have feathers? Who knows? Did they wear dresses? Who knows? All I know is that they're cool. Did they even exist? That's the biggest question. Do they still exist? Maybe in Middle Earth? You know, we haven't dug enough, deep enough. Maybe we'll find some at some point. That's actually something that I looked up today. I always have difficulty saying, like, for example, the sort of. I always wondered what you say when you want to say, like, or when you say, like, I haven't drunken alcohol. So I looked it up, and that was supposedly the right word for it, or the right way to say it, like using the past tense, because you're speaking about the past. So you say, you should say, I haven't drunken any alcohol so far, but it sounds weird. I've never heard that before. Maybe because that's a rare thing to say. I don't know. But I've never heard that before. I usually I think I learned most of my vocabulary from just listening to, like, English or American natural speakers or native speakers, and I just picked stuff up. But for that, like, I've never heard the phrase I haven't drunken any alcohol. I've never heard that before. But, you know, I guess that's how it is. It's kind of weird, but it makes sense when you think about it grammatically. It just kind of, it feels weird. That's what I'm going to say, okay? I'm not going to judge the language because I don't know too much about it, but it feels weird. Welcome back, Crow. Hope you hope work has treated you a little bit better today. Maybe you were able to work on some 3D stuff too. So he has these big eye bags. I kind of want to keep them in there too. So maybe we should pull the eyes a little bit higher. Right there. Perfect. Give him those eye bags. There you go. He looks very tired. He has seen a lot of stuff that nobody wants to see. He even has, like, wrinkles on his forehead. If you could call that forehead. Look at that. He's very concerned about his future. Because all people are always drunk. Yeah. Nobody can say it, basically. That's why you've never heard it. I think what I've heard before is, like, I haven't been drinking any alcohol, but never, like, I haven't drunk. Maybe that's more what people say. Maybe that's the better way to say it, maybe even. I don't know. Okay. I want to make it even thinner. Let's pull it even further forward. There you go. Even on the side here. Nice and thin. Okay. Let's go in here and add sort of like a... What are they called? Like these flaps that usually, like, roosters have, or even like some other birds where it kind of hangs down right there. That's what I want to do, add here too. Just a little bit right there. Look at that. Yeah. Okay. You know, see, that's actually something that I noticed too when I when I look at like roosters. You can see this sort of thingy dangling there. And then if you look at old people, sometimes because their skin sort of, you know, droops down, let's say, you can see it in them too when they like speak or whatever. It kind of wobbles around. That's what it always reminds me of for some reason. Old people just become roosters. Or the one that like what are the other ones? The what are the birds called again that you eat on Christmas? I can't remember. But they have this weird flap on the top that sort of hangs down. It also looks kind of weird. They have it not under the chin, but they have it above it. Oh, wait, we actually painted in the wrong direction. You can see his back right there. It looks kind of sus. Not gonna lie. There you go. Look at those nose holes. Perfect. Okay, let's add some more detail into the face. We haven't been doing that so far. See, there it works. We haven't been doing it. I guess it works. It feels okay. Feels right. Today I went to make a video in the video editor, and so long that was not that I forgot how to use it. Nice. I haven't really used the video editor and Blender too much because I usually just use Premiere Pro or After Effects, so I haven't really had the need for it. Maybe I'll check it out at some point. It's sort of intriguing because you can sort of do everything in Blender, you know, that's another step. I always think like, you know, Blender is like the one tool where you can do everything, which also means, as we said before, or discussed, or you talked about before in the Discord, if you do everything, you can't do, like, you can't be the master of anything. So I still have like the thinking of, well, you can do everything in Blender, so, you know, the video editor is probably not, you know, better or on par with Premiere Pro, but, you know, you could at least test it at least. Maybe there are some like features that you don't have in other software, maybe, I don't know. I think you can use, can't you actually edit procedurally in, no, you can post, like you can do post-processing procedurally, right? With the image editor or the post processor or whatever it's called. That's what we always use for the quick sketch. I don't think you can actually sort of, what would you call that? Like video edit procedurally. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, let's add some structure here into the chin, the crimson chin. That's also one that he reminds me of. Jurassic crimson chin. We could make him red so he looks like him. And then there's the other one too, right? The black one. Let's add some teeth. Actually, I want to add the teeth later because I want to make them asymmetrical. And then, actually no, yeah, let's add them later. He also kind of reminds me of Derpy Devil Joe from Monster Hunter because of the chin. Oh, you used DaVinci Resolve? Okay, yeah. I also want to add some weirder bumps here to the body, so it looks kind of, yeah, weird, let's say. So I'm just using the what is it? The crease brush, just to kind of do that. It has a very, very sort of unique way of adding geometry or sort of reshaping it. So that's why I like to use it for this. We have 14 minutes left. Perfect. Adobe I don't use, it doesn't like me. I don't think it likes itself sometimes. Sometimes it just exists, you know, it doesn't really, you know, it seems like it just, like with every update, it just adds new features on top of other ones, so it's just like this big Jenga pile or Jenga tower, and at some point it's just gonna crash. Because there are always new features and it's just gonna stack and stack and stack and stack and just get more and more unstable until everything breaks. Look at him. Look at this nice haircut. Swagging out here. Let's add some more. And then let's detail them just a little bit. I want to separate them from the body. There you go. We can maybe even add some more if we switch to asymmetry. But right now I kind of want to just speed up the process by keeping symmetry on. Look at him. Perfect. I think it's time for asymmetry now. I don't think there's much more that we need to do here. So we can go into asymmetry. There you go. Or let's save first and then we can do it. I want to make sure that I'm not that I'm not losing my life here, my time, my precious time, my first 16 minutes, or 17. Three, 1, 7. Perfect. The old base is hanging a lot of superfluous and it works through one place. Do we need more detail? I don't think so. We only need symmetry. If we don't switch to higher resolution, we don't need to care about more, which also means that we can care about other stuff more, like the teeth. This one should be big. Look at that. Perfect. Make a smaller one here. Big one here. Okay, let's go all around and then we can maybe detail them a little bit more too. Of course, the smaller you get, the less resolution you have for the teeth, which also means that it sometimes just disappears because it can't really compute the way you want to reshape it. But it works quite well right now, at least. Sometimes I make the original sphere smaller. Sometimes I make it bigger, which kind of determines how well I guess the scope goes a little bit. Because, you know, if you make it bigger, you have more resolution to work with. If you make it smaller, you have less. Okay, let's make them more individual. Let's put them apart from the rest of the jaw. There you go. Very, very simple. And there you go. We have teeth now. Let's go into the eyes. The eyes look kind of weird right now. I kind of want to bring the eyelid a little bit further into the eye. I still want to have it pretty open. Very, very weird looking. So I kind of want to keep that in there. Maybe we can push this inwards just a little bit so that the eyes pop out more. Maybe we can even pull it down a little bit so that his forehead isn't as strong. I'm gonna keep it asymmetrical. I think that can add some character to the whole thing. We have 9 minutes left. Perfect. DaVinci as well is free and much more stable. And if you take a paid, then the functionality is more than 5 packages. Yeah, I heard good things about DaVinci. I haven't checked it out myself yet. Let's add some more character to the chin. There you go. A little bit more maybe. Maybe even separate the jaw from the rest, from the skin a little bit. Make the jawline poppin'. There you go. I don't think we're gonna see the back here too much, but we're just gonna add some detail here. Why? Because I want to, okay? Sometimes you don't need a reason. You just need to want it. Okay. Maybe add some more here, just a little bit. There you go. Okay. I don't want to go into too much. I mean, I don't want to increase the resolution because I don't think it's going to help us much here. Maybe we can go over a few things here and there. We have 7 minutes left, actually. Maybe we're going to end it earlier. Maybe. Actually, I think we're going to find some more that we can detail. I don't think we need to do that. We're going to use our time wisely. Okay, that's better. He also has a node system to create effects and other things for 3D editor. Okay. Node-based. So what I thought about today was something that actually very much would excite me if they would do it in Blender. What if... So they talked about making the node, the particle systems node-based too. And I pray to the Blender gods that they mean hair particles too. That would be absolutely crazy. You know, you could still work with the old version of doing it, with the old like particle settings, or oh yeah, true. I need to put that. Hold on, let me put that in my thingy here to make it a overlay. The overlay, make it a standard. Make Blender key overlay standard on, I guess. There you go. Like making hair particles. There were two things, okay? There were two things. First one, making Blender hair particles procedural or node based, so that you can basically in the you can make a node system for the look of hair particles. That would be sick. Something like using textures for clumping. So like procedural clumping. I don't know if that would be that useful, but just an idea, you know. Or maybe even like something. I don't know, the texture like all the properties that you have right now, just node based. And then another thing that kind of came to mind was, oh, there you go. Okay, there you go. Thank you. The other one was why? So we can, like, for character customization, okay? So in for example in Cyberpunk, okay, you can customize your character's face, you can customize your character's nose, mouth, eyes, nose, whatever, even your dick. But why can't you customize your own hairstyle? Why do we still have to choose from the same old boring hairstyles that we have since 1969, okay? Why do we always have the same hairstyles in every game that we have our own character customizer? Or why do we like, yeah, why is that a thing? It seems, or also in like single player games where you don't customize your character. For example, in where that was the most obvious for me was Resident Evil Village. Why does the character look super realistic, but then if you look at the hair, it looks like some sort of claymation drawing that's just been like put on tape. You drew some lines on a see-through tape and then you put it on the character's head. Why do they look so horrible? Why does hair look so horrible in games from this year? How is that possible? It seems like the games have improved so much. You can see in the new Matrix game, you can see like it basically looks like real life if you have still images. For example, even if you run around, it looks like super ultra realistic. But why does hair still look like garbage? How is that a thing? Just give me... Or why can't we just create our own hairstyles? Maybe even presets, and then we combine different parts of hairs together to create your own one. Why is that not possible? Maybe hair physics? I don't know. It's weird. Why? Just give it to me. That would be so cool if you could create your own hairstyle in like a character creator. You know, you have like presets and then you can choose maybe strands from certain presets or like parts from certain presets. So you want to have like the front piece from one, and then you can combine it with the side part from another. Or you want to have like a bun, but then you also want to have like long hair in the back. I don't know, you know, so many different ways you can do stuff if you give people the possibilities to do so. But if you don't even do that, then why? That's something that is sort of got into my mind today. Like why is, you know, like just why is that another thing? You know, why can we just not make our own hairstyles? You know, we can customize everything on our character, everything except for the hair. So, you know, just let's give us hair too, because like hair is also just geometry with textures on. So, you know, the only thing that I could see being the reason for it not working is that it's like it has slight physics when you like move around or whatever. But I don't know, if you have presets where you can choose from and then you can like use those, wouldn't that still work then? I don't know, maybe it's just like a super novel idea that nobody ever thought about. It's kind of weird. I've seen geometric nodes for Blender Unreal Bridge to use them there. Oh yeah, I've seen them too. Or I've seen the topic about it. Most likely the problem in the calculation of physics. Maybe. Yeah, that would be my idea too. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I don't think hair simulations are like super complex in games right now. So I don't really see the problem there. I mean, you know, they improve everything else, so I guess there must be a reason that they don't improve hair that much. The only hair editor is best BDO. What's BDO? Like Desert Online, I guess. Never played it, but I actually the only thing or the only reason I would play the game, or the only thing that I would do in the game would be to create characters. That would be the only thing that I would do, because it's so like elaborate what you can do in that creator, in that character creator. It's basically like the character creator program that released recently, but in a game. Basically, you can sort of define everything. You can change the forehead, you can change the eyebrows, you can change everything. Kind of crazy. Yep, we're over. We're done. Okay, let's finish it. There you go. Nope, that's not what I wanted. There you go. Oh, actually, no, we can stay there. Let's use the projection. There it is. Zzz. Zip. Perfect. Make it nice and clean. Okay. Perfect. Like Desert Online, I guess, is the best editor of characters that I used. Yeah, all the other ones sort of seem very, very rudimentary compared to that one. Wait, what? Oh. Apply rotation. I think Daz might be the best basement character creator out there. They just have an image problem. Yeah, Daz seems kind of weird. Daz is a very, very weird program. From what I've seen so far. Welcome, Dusty. Hope you enjoyed your Tuesday. What do you mean with image problem? Okay. Okay, let's add some eyes first. I actually want to kind of keep the derpiness in his eyes, so I'm gonna do something interesting. I'm gonna first of all make it smaller, put it in his head, and then we can go over what I want to do. So put that in there. Perfect. There you go. And then I want to color, or I want to give the middle piece a different shading than the rest. But let's do that after we've lit the whole thing. They seem like an amateur program, but it's really good for pro use. It seems very good if you want to quickly make an image, or if you want to like create good-looking CG images. Yeah, if you want to create like good-looking CG images with you know like a short amount of time. I've seen very, very, very good images, or I've seen very, very good renders. I haven't actually not really seen that many bad ones. But it, yeah. It's kind of like weird in itself. I don't know how to say it, like. Of course, for example, Caitlyn, it's basically what we've done for the arcane characters. You know, we've grabbed all these assets, combined them to create unique characters, basically. And that's basically what you do in Daz too, right? You choose everything from the model to the hair to maybe even the makeup. This, I guess, the textures to the pose to the expression. I mean, I guess that's the pose, to the lighting, to everything. You know. Clothing, whatever. So you can do everything in there, but it's yeah, that's basically what you do. Quickly putting together like a scene, for example. Okay, let's get into shading. I'm very, very thirsty right now. So I need to drink something. So let me finish this real quick. Where am I? I'm in the wrong one. There it is. Sketch day 3. Wait, no. There we go. Collection lights. Yesterday we actually forgot to change the color. Today we're not gonna forget that. Okay. I will make sure of that. There you go. Let's change the... Nope, one more air first. Let's do the color. Let's see, where should we place it? That looks pretty cool. It gives it nice contours on like the protruding areas. I like that. Did it yesterday. Made that today in the plans. You mean you want to do tattoos, or do you mean something else? Okay. I wonder how copyright affects the... What is it? DAS? I wonder how that affects, I guess, the way you can use it. Because, like, I wonder how they get the library. Because I guess it's, like, community driven. People can post, like, characters or clothing or whatever. And then other people can use it. I wonder how you have to sort of, for example, like, mention the original creators. Because, like, if you create everything from scratch, then why would you use DAS, you know? You use it because you can quickly, you know, put together your own character. So it wouldn't really make sense if you create everything yourself. He looks so cute right now. Look at him. He looks so cute with these huge eyes and these small and these huge reflections in his eyes. Let's make him look very derpy. Let's see what we can do here. Oh yeah, make a new one. Spectacularity 0. Roughness full. Okay. His eyes are too big. Oh, hello. Well, there you go. I don't even think you can recognize it as irises right now. Maybe we should stay that size. And then we can maybe make this one smaller. I don't like the reflection in his eye right now. I'm talking about yesterday, about how long I was looking for a decision of the tattoo projection. Oh, yeah. It's surprising that nobody ever sort of, or from what I've seen, nobody ever sort of thought about doing that, or at least making a video out of that. Like, as if nobody ever created a character with a lot of tattoos. I don't know. Kind of weird. But I think the workflow that we have works very well for what you can do with it. You can maybe even use the soft wrap add-on to make it even better. Maybe I'll check that out at some point too. See if it works well with that. It should work pretty well. But of course, you should always test before you say something, claim something. Okay, I guess I'll just leave it there. There's one more thing, which is the quick sketch shader. There it is, quick sculpt. Okay, perfect. I like that more. I think that's better. Change it a little bit. I think that's better. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Everything's ready to render, so Nope, hold on, there's one more thing, hold on. We need to enable depth of field, of course. On his eyes, there you go. And then depth of field, there you go. 0.4, nice. And then I also want to reduce the background color. Maybe even bring it to a nice green. That's pretty cool, I like that. Maybe even a little bit more teal-like. There you go, perfect. Render. Nice. Welcome back, Zachary. Hope you had a great day. Hope you enjoyed your day. I don't know why, but why does this area look so hazy? Hold on. Ooh, I'm gonna be gone for a second. Maybe that helps. I don't know. Can you... Oh, there it is. Looks way better. Nice. The fog is gone. I removed the fog from the render scene. There you go. Perfect. Okay. Set it... Nope, we're good. Put it there, and we do some glitter. Oh, look at him. He looks very Christmassy. Christmas dinosaur. Christmasaur. A little bit less. 6. Perfect. Just maybe everyone did the projection of the texture or did in Substance Painter. Yeah, yeah, maybe. It seems like there's like a tutorial for everything in Blender except for tattoos, I guess. I don't know. Okay. Render. Nope, not. There we go. Render. Perfect. I'm gonna drink something real quick and then we're gonna do some post-processing. Santa head. Look at him. Isn't he cute? He was supposed to look derpy, but somehow he turned out cute. Okay. Let's save him. Quick sketch day 317. Perfect. Photoshop isn't. Oh, it is. Nice. Save one more, and let's switch to Photoshop. There you go. Welcome back, Chronicler. Hope you've been well. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed your Tuesday. Maybe you're already preparing for Christmas, maybe even New Year, you know. Still buying, I don't know, gifts maybe, or maybe you don't even celebrate Christmas. Let's get into color correction. No, I don't want to make it too dark. What about very... Oh, hello. What does that actually look like? Hold on. Oh, scary. There you go. And then add some vibrance. And then we're good. Perfect. 317. Okay. Welcome. It's Tida. Hope you enjoyed your Tuesday too. Your Tuesday too. Welcome. Looks sick. Looks pretty cute, I would say. Doesn't look sick, okay. Or I guess you could say because he's green, maybe. Okay. I have finally got back into streaming. Blender 3.0 is a lot of fun. Finished a focus sample image in 40 minutes. Nice, yeah. 4K is way more accessible now. I rendered all my arcane renders in 3K, I think. So it's like it took like maybe like 30 minutes, so it's very, very, very nice. Even with like a high hair count, it's really, really, really nice. Okay, there you go. Perfect. Get back to Blender, and there you go. Let's all celebrate Halloween on Christmas. I don't know if people gonna be with you on that. Okay. Okay. I think I'll move to a more consistent 2K for characters and maybe 3 to 4K for environments. Wouldn't... I guess for environments you don't have that much geometry, but that also depends on how you want to construct it. What do you want to go for 2K for characters and 3 to 4K for environments? Would it make more sense to do the opposite? Because you probably have more details that you want to show on characters than on environments. The animation tools got me busy. You mean in Blender? I guess. Instead of Photoshop, I have Affinity Photo. Yeah, I heard of that too. The Affinity programs. Some people use it in our agency. I don't. But I considered it. Maybe I'll check it out at some point. I usually use speed sculpt, so I need the render to be done fairly quickly. Yeah, okay, well then. Yeah, it makes sense to do smaller renders. You can also just upscale it, of course. That also works, you know. You don't even need Photoshop, for example. You can also just do it on the interwebs if you want. Okay. We need to go to the 3-minute compilation, and then we're going to go into today's topic, which is going through the mental steps of sculpting. Everything from gathering reference or picking our subject to I guess looking at the reference, analyzing the reference, and then going into sculpting until we reach the final sculpt. That's going to be today's topic. Basically all the things that I think about and the workflow that I do for any of my sculpts. Starting from scratch from a sphere. We're gonna pick a yeah, we're gonna look for a reference. I haven't looked anything up yet, so that's gonna be interesting what we're actually gonna sculpt. I don't want to do a human character because that's boring. Might be, I don't know. Yeah, I want to do something else just because it's sort of less trained. I don't know how would you call it. Like it's more unusual for me, so I can kind of talk about what I think about at that time better. For characters, for example, I have like a very set way of doing it, which sometimes maybe because I've done it so much, I've maybe forgotten some thoughts that I have. I don't know, because they became like a habit. I don't know. So I want to probably do something else than a character. We could do the same maybe for a character too at some point, but I want to do in like a creature first. Borning? What's borning? Lightroom stands dark table. That's something I've never heard before. Borning? What's borning? I can't explain myself if I don't know what you mean. Okay, let me import the image into my phone and then do the upload, and then we can go straight to the topic. There you go. You said human characters are boring. Yes, they're boring. I've done probably now this year more characters than I've done throughout the last 2 years, just because of all the quick sketches. So I have a certain habit for them that where I might forget some things to talk about. So yeah. And it's also, you know, more of a beginner perspective if I do something that is more unfamiliar for me, I guess. It's not that characters are boring. I still like sculpting characters the most. That's why we did 3 weeks of creating 3 different characters, you know. But it's yeah, I'm more used to it. Okay, it is time for the compilation. I'm gonna see you in 3 minutes, and then we're gonna go to today's topic. So I hope you enjoy the compilation, and I'll see you then. Okay, we're back. 3 minutes are already over, and we're ready to go into the next part. The actual part. The thing that matters today, okay? Okay, yep. That's my cousin. Welcome back, James. Hope you enjoyed your Tuesday. Hope you enjoyed your day so far, or your morning. Hope you didn't have a rough sleep. Okay, let's open a new file and then we can go into it. Okay, we're going to start from scratch as always, or as, you know, what I want to do today. I want to start from scratch, not with a base mesh or anything. I want to start with a sphere from scratch, basically. Yeah, I mean, so what we want to do today is, or what I want to do today is I want to cover, just to recap it again, I want to cover the entire process from beginning to end when it comes to not only what I do when I sculpt, why I do it when I sculpt, but also what I think about while I'm sculpting. And also not only the sculpting part, but also, like, this is the sculpting part, then we have another part in front of there, which is the reference part and the reference gathering part. We're not going to do like elaborate reference gathering, how I did it, for example, for Jinx or any arcane character, any likeness character that I do. Where I like grab like different angles from all, like try to find like the character from different angles, because that limits like the characters that we can do, or the reference that we can use a lot, because like they have to be a lot of different angles. Sometimes you just have like a sketch that you think is cool and you want to like recreate it in 3D, for example, where you don't really have like different angles. So yeah, we want to, we don't really care about different angles necessarily. But let's begin with the first part. So usually if I want to do anything, if I want to sculpt anything, for example, for these quick sketches, I guess that's the best example. For these quick sketches, for example, every day, I have to have some sort of reference that I can use for my quick sketches. I could also just come up with something, but my creativity is limited when it comes to coming up with a new idea every day that I not only can develop in my brain or can think of in my brain detailed enough to be able to put that into a sculpt, but also keeping that in my mind while sculpting it. So what I usually do is I look for some references that I can then sculpt. Of course, what usually probably happens if you, for example, want to create characters is, of course, you could do your own sketches, but what probably also happens oftentimes is that you just go through your favorite image-based, or maybe even any website, you surf through the web, and then you find a reference or a piece, an art piece, for example, that you think looks very cool. Which what I usually use is Pinterest, and then I look through the images, maybe even type in, I look for something specific to look through the, I guess, through the images, to find something interesting that I want to recreate in 3D. So that's what we're going to do today. Sometimes I just it kind of just shows up in front of me. I find an image that I think is cool and I want to recreate, and sometimes it's just I need to find it rather. So what we're going to do is we're going to find a cool image or a cool piece of reference that we're going to use for the quick sketch, or not for the quick sketch, but for the sculpt, that we can use, and recreate in 3D. Let's get into get to Pinterest and look through what we have here. What we could do is we could of course go to my pin here. We can go to concept art characters, for example, and grab one of those. What I said though is I don't want to do any human characters today, because I want to be sort of more in the uncommon territory. I don't want to be very comfortable doing this, because then I can kind of more reflect and more comment on what I'm thinking about currently. Sometimes if it's very habitual, like sculpting characters, for example, I'm used to it. I already know the process or how I think about stuff, so I might sort of forget some smaller things that I would have to think about more when I do sculpts or characters that I'm less comfortable with, like animals, for example, or creatures. When I create something from scratch in Blender, just doing the inclined spontaneous, so doing something spontaneously that you come up with, I usually actually find reference or find images that I think look cool, that I then turn into something. So I also have my creatures, inspiration creatures pin thingy here, where I have some images, not that many. But what we can do here is we can just go into more ideas, and then we can find some more. So let's get into that. I'm not really necessarily looking for something specific. All I'm really trying to see is what sort of speaks to me, what you can do, or what sort of what I always sort of think about before I, for example, look for references, especially for these quick sketches, because I only want to limit it to 30 minutes, is can I create something that looks at least decent to me, or that looks good to me in the amount of time that I want to spend on it. So for example, stuff like this, a frozen dragon in ice would probably take longer than, I guess we have like 2 hours or so, like the 2 hours that we have for this. So we're not gonna, pick this one, because to make it look like a frozen dragon in ice, or dragon bones in ice, we would also have to sculpt the eyes, which also means that we need to spend more time on, developing and creating these environments, which probably takes more time than I want to spend on it. So we're not going to use that one, for example. So we kind of need to find something that looks cool, or that looks very interesting, without sort of having to spend more time on it than we want to. So we kind of have to find something in the mix. We have to find a range. We have to find an image that sort of fits the range that we want to work on in. What model of moving tape of my standing desk? I have no idea. My dad bought it. I think it's just like a, you have these products that get sold on from multiple retailers. So if you go to eBay or like Amazon, for example, you go and you find the same product with these same images, but just with a different name and a different brand that sells it, or a different company that sells it. That's basically what we have, what I have here. It's just like a random standing desk. I don't even know if there's a name on it, but yeah, I couldn't tell you, unfortunately. But it's pretty good, pretty sturdy. Yeah, but I can't tell you. I have no idea. Okay, so what I'm looking for is basically something that not only speaks to me, but also sort of fits into the time that I want to spend on it. So this one looks cool to me. What I always like to do is I like to focus on why I like to create characters is I like to create unique characters. I think sometimes some artists, it feels like, have a certain, for example, for characters, for example, some character artists have a set face that they use for every one of their characters. So every character basically looks like one character, but with different ways to make them unique that are excluding the face. So the face basically always looks similar or the same, but then they have different hair, they have different clothing, they have different, I don't know, hair colors and all that stuff. So they still look sort of unique, but in a different way. What I always love is making characters unique in the most ways possible. So not only the hair, the clothing and all that, but also the face. I think the face, there's so much that you can make unique that I don't want to just make one face that I use everywhere. I actually want to kind of, make everything unique. So these ones I always love, these different unique dragon or dinosaur sketches, for example, I think look really cool, and they have a lot of character and a lot of details, where you also, because they're sketches, can interpret a little bit, because some lines sort of just suggest a certain structure, but they don't really sort of set it in stone necessarily. So you could kind of I like these sketches a lot because you can interpret it as well as have a good foundation in what that can give you a good base when you're sculpting. But let's look through a few more. We can maybe save this in a tab and see what else we find, and then we can decide on what we want to do here, what we want to use. What model? Oh yeah, look at the monster from Solo Leveling. Someone else, I think Hustler, suggested that before too. I think they look kind of weird, but we can, or crazy. Let's see. Solo Leveling, I guess. Solo Leveling creature. So yeah, for example, for these ones, the thing is, stuff like this is also in the realm of having a lot of room for interpretation, but these ones are very, very much based on how you interpret it. They have some lines to sort of define the structure, like these lines here, for example, kind of defining that there's probably like a plate or something on its legs. But everything else is basically sort of, I guess, up to interpretation. I think that can work, and I think it could be a cool project. The thing is, I think that it will take longer than we're gonna have today. We could also just say, well, we're just only going to do the head, for example, but I think to make this look good, we would have to do the full thing, which probably takes a little bit longer than 2 hours because of how detailed it is and how much we kind of can interpret ourselves. So I think it's a cool sort of project, or a cool character, but it would probably take a little bit longer than I want to spend on this. Okay, let's look through a few more. We have a lot of dragons, of course. We have another one that speaks to me. This one looks very cool because of the vibrant colors that we're probably not going to add because it's just going to be a sculpt. It's not going to be coloring. So we can't really get intrigued by the colors and not look at the shape. And I think the shape looks fairly simple, or fairly not generic necessarily, but I've seen similar stuff before. So let's look through a few more, okay? We have a lot of dragons. We have this one here too. We have like sort of tiger-esque animal. We have axolotl, of course. Flying creatures. Wolves. So let's see. This one looks interesting too. Here for this one, for example, we can see that this one is less... It gives you less room for interpretation. Everything's very much defined. even the smaller shapes here, like the flesh and the skin and the eyes and all the wrinkles and all that. So you have less room for interpretation compared to, for example, this one. So this one can also be a good one, because for this one you can do more of a lightness sculpt. So you can think about like, oh, okay, I want to do a sculpt, and for this one you wouldn't necessarily reinterpret some areas. You would try to recreate it one by one. That could also be interesting. But I think what I want to do here is I want to have some room for interpretation to yeah, play around with it some more. So we're gonna look through a few more here. We have a monkey. Monkey god or whatever. We have a lot of dragons. I think that's the most, the references that I have the most in that file or in that pinboard. Cool whale too. More dragons. He has a lot of cool characters. Let's say they have a lot of cool characters. I've done, I think, 2 monsters, let's say, from them before. So let's see what they have in their portfolio. Maybe if we find something cool. Terran Fiddler. I think I've grabbed 2 so far off of these. We have a cool gorilla tentacle thingy. It actually looks pretty cool, actually. I like it. Let's see, let's look through a few more here. We have the opposite. We have Cthulhu, Monkey Cthulhu, I guess. We have this dude, Skull Dragon. We have Skull Pegasus. We have Sexy Cerberus. Okay, nice. A Winged Tiger. Oh, that looks really cool, actually. I like that one a lot. I like the aesthetic, sort of. I like the horns. They sort of fit very well with the tiger. His look is also very mysterious, yet intriguing. Very chill, very non-caring, or maybe even annoyed. Die Dark look. Is that another series? Okay, this one we have the Quetzalcoatl. Probably the worst pronunciation you could have for that. Elemental Hydra. Oh, that's a cool concept. Snake Pig. Okay. Mushroom Creature. Okay. Okay, let's see. Reptilian Ape. Edin. Okay. And then we have a few more. This one also looks very cool with the sort of combination of a centaur with sort of like an insect. I like that one a lot too. Anubis, okay. Okay, Kelpie. Oh, okay. Ya Maya who? Oh man, how many does he have in this, or do they have in that list? Okay. Hades Pet. Naga. What? Mappingard. Draugr or Draw. Basilisk. Oh my god, how many are there? Oh my god. Okay. Oh, and there they are. There are the sketches too. So I think I like 2 of these a lot, and I kind of want to choose between the 2. The ones that I like the most are this one, the Centaur, whatever, Centaur Ride. And then the other one was the one up here, which is this one, the Winged Tiger. Okay, so I think I want to choose between these 2. The tiger or the Centaur Ride. I like both. I like the aesthetics. I like the colors. We're not going to care about the colors too much, but I also like sort of the forms. I like the combination of everything. So combining the different creatures, it looks really cool. It looks very detailed. There's still room for interpretation, which I like these small scribbles kind of just sort of suggest a certain structure, but you also have some room for interpretation. So yeah, I like these 2. What do you think? Welcome, Johnny. Hope you enjoyed your Tuesday. Hope you enjoyed your day. I like both. Which one do you like more? Do you have an opinion? Or if not, then I'm just gonna choose myself. I think these ones look the best. I don't want to go, like, I don't want to spend too much time on reference gathering. I think these ones are actually like one of the best references because you have, for one, like a sort of far away shot. You have one that is closer, and then you have one that is very close to the camera with more details and different angles too. So I like this sort of, I guess, showcase of the character a lot because you get different angles for the character, which can help you in sort of filling the gaps in between different parts of the scope. Sometimes you have certain pieces that you can't really, like, one angle maybe hides a certain aspect that you don't really see that well, so you would either have to interpret it yourself, or you're lucky and you find another reference that sort of shows the character in a different angle. This one works very well for that purpose because you cannot only see it from one angle, because you can see it from 3 angles, and then also from different, I guess, like positions. Of course, they're basically angles. So yeah, I think this one, I like this a lot. So same here, we have a close-up and then we have like a full body shot. If we do these, we're not going to do the full body probably, because that probably takes too long. So for this one, probably takes more than 2 hours to sculpt this. So maybe for this one, we could do the upper body, which kind of defeats the purpose of the creature, but who cares? And then for this one, we can maybe even do the full body. We'll see. But yeah, there you go. If you want to check more out from the artist, it's Taran Fiddler, artstation.com/artwork 89KRA5. Okay. Yeah, he does very, very cool character designs. I've grabbed 1 or 2 from him before for quick sketches, and yeah, I like them a lot. Let's get rid of this. We don't need this anymore. We have our 2 choices, and I think nobody has a if nobody wants to decide, I'm gonna decide for myself. I think I like this one more. It sort of is more fantasy-like. I like the combination of horns with the tiger, but because we're gonna do, yeah, I think because of the time, I want to do this one more and do the upper body and, like, you know, head, maybe even the sword. I think that'll be cooler. So we're gonna do this one. We're not gonna do the tiger. Let's get rid of this one, get rid of that one. Yeah, we're gonna choose this one. So now that we have our reference, now that we know what we're gonna sculpt, we're not gonna try to find more references because that is probably the only one that we can find, and we're gonna expect this to be the only one that we can find to, I guess, cover the most realistic situation, because usually you find like images with just one sketch, and then you have to work with that only sketch to recreate your character or to create your character. One thing you can, for example, see is that we don't really have like a back shot for the back of his, I guess, for his back, let's say. So you have some room for interpretation there too. So yeah, you know, there are some I guess problems or some gaps we have to fill ourselves, but I think those gaps are somewhat easy to fill. So let's grab the image, save it, and then we can go into Photoshop first, because I want to focus on what I think about, or how I dissect the reference first. Let's get into Photoshop. Let me save this real quick and then we can begin. Wait, where's Photoshop? There it is. There you go. Oh. Okay. My Explorer just crashed. Hold on. There you go. Okay. Almost there. Almost there. Okay. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do what actually somebody asked before, if we can cover the topic of how to reduce or how to simplify complex shapes into simple ones so that we can turn those into, or that we can sculpt those. Because generally the problem is, if you do sculpts, I guess the biggest skill for you to develop in the beginning to create good sculpts is to be able to, I guess, simplify the pieces that you want to sculpt. Simplification basically means grabbing or looking at a piece, for example, like this one, for like the one that we're gonna do today, and getting rid of all the details so that you can basically determine the big shapes that you then can begin and focus on when you're sculpting. And then the process is basically beginning with the big shapes, beginning with the biggest shapes, let's say, then splitting that up into slightly smaller shapes, or like big shapes rather than big shapes. I don't know, like, you know, splitting up into smaller shapes, and then maybe even splitting it up into even smaller shapes to then finally create the final form, basically. That's going to be the process that we're going to do for the sculpt. And before we begin with that, we're going to go into the into Photoshop to do some of that here too, so we can sort of manifest the what I'm, for example, thinking about when I simplify these things. Okay, so first of all, we have the reference. First thing first, the easiest way to simplify a reference is to look at the silhouette. That's for example also why I always like to have multiple angles for likeness sculpting, because the silhouette tells you a lot about a character. It doesn't only tell you about the shape, it also tells you sort of, well, it basically simplifies the character almost completely into one single shape that you can then maybe even simplify it even more to kind of gather the simplest shape that you can turn something into. So if we, for example, now grab this and we turn this into a single, or we only really separate it and create a silhouette out of it so that we can only really see the silhouette, we can basically see the... Wait, what? No. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do... we're going to turn this into a silhouette to see what I mean, basically. What I want to do is basically show you why silhouettes are so important to not only determine the shape of something, but also determine like what makes the character unique. Because if you want to recreate a character, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to make everything like perfectly how you can see it in the reference. It can also just mean that you analyze what the main characteristics of a sculpt or a sketch, for example, is, and keep that or try to recreate that in the sculpt. Oftentimes, for example, for fan art, it doesn't necessarily mean that all the drawings look exactly like the, for example, character that you can see in the TV show, but it's more that they analyze what the characteristics of that character are that make them unique, and then they kept those in their art pieces to make them to create the character, basically. It doesn't necessarily mean that they, like, you know, made every single wrinkle and every single, I guess, like the eyes perfect. That's not necessarily what makes characters unique or recognizable. Okay, we don't need to go too detailed in here. I just want to make sure that everything is included here. Looks pretty good. Now we have one here that we can make a little bit better. Perfect. Looks good to me. Okay. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. So now that we have the silhouette selected, we can maybe even do the same here, because we can probably focus on the... Hello? Why is my thingy scuffed? Something's wrong. think my... Hold on. Okay. I don't know why, but my preview sometimes just glitches out. I guess I have to restart it. Maybe. Let me save it real quick and then we can restart. So we're going to use this silhouette now to sort of draw onto the simplest shapes that we can simplify it onto, so that we can then turn that into the sculpt. I'm going to show you what I mean once we restart it. Okay, I don't know why, but sometimes Photoshop just freezes, so I have to restart it. Great program. As I said, the bigger, the newer the version, the buggier it gets. So let's open the newer version. Maybe that helps. Oh, that was the wrong one. Okay, so we've separated the silhouette, as you can see right here. Wait, let's do it again. Let's finish it. Oh, it's froze, of course, as it always does. Okay, let's wait again. I actually considered just going back to an older version. Maybe they are more stable, because this one, the newest ones, the two newest ones just don't like to work. They like to freeze when they start, and then, I mean, they work pretty well afterwards, but in the beginning they're just annoying. There you go. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to finish this. Okay, so let me just do this. There you go. Okay. Perfect. So we have our two pieces here. Let's turn them into a pure silhouette so that we can simplify it even more. I'm going to make a white background. There you go. And then we're going to overlay it with black. So you can see now that we have the silhouette. With the silhouette, you can see well, basically the general shapes of the character. Of course, if you rotate the character, for example, in 3D, you would have different shapes, but you can at least sort of see oftentimes like what makes characters unique and I guess recognizable is most of the time their silhouettes, or it's one big factor. Because if you can analyze, or because the silhouette is something very, very easy to see for humans, you know, like my hand, you can see like what the outline is. You can immediately see that it's a hand. You don't have to look at the structure that is like over here somewhere. So this silhouette is something very, very recognizable for people. So if we want to create a character that looks like this one, let's look at the silhouette and see what sort of makes out, what makes up the silhouette and what makes the silhouette unique to other characters that we can then transfer over to our character. I think the easiest one to sort of, I guess, point to, the easiest thing to point to would be the, I guess you could say antlers. Basically the, these things here. I don't know what they're called for insects, I guess. Let's call them antlers. Basically the horns. I think those ones are a very important part of the character. You can see them here too. So they sort of look like these big horns, hornitors, I think they're called, like the ones that have these huge scissors in the front. And then even the horn that we have here, I think is very important. So we have like three very important horns. We have this one, we have this one, and then we have this one. Let's sort of create the silhouette for it. So it looks somewhat like this. Then we have one right here too. And then we have one right here. Okay. And then of course we have a head. The head is pretty simple actually. It just seems like a sort of spherical body. Let's add those here. There you go. And then the head is basically, you know, you have this small thing here too, but the antenna, but we don't really need to care about that one because it's pretty, I guess you could include it, but I'm not going to include it in this one. We can say sculpt it, but I don't think it's like a huge characteristic of this character. What I want to focus more on is rather the actual head shape, you could say. The head shape is pretty simple. It looks kind of like a cube, maybe even. So it goes like this. There you go. You could also argue that it's sort of like a round, like a U shape, maybe. I think that works maybe a little bit better. We can do the same here. Okay, there you go. So that's the character's head. And then we go into the rest. So for the rest of the character, we have this wide, we have wide shoulders here. There you go. We have big arms on the side, you know. We have these arms with three, it seems like 3 fingers, maybe 4. So we have, first of all, we have the big body right here. Big body with big shoulders and then big arms too. Big shoulders, big arms. Even forearms too, of course. There you go. And then we have these hands. They don't really look like human hands necessarily. They look more like, I guess, comic hands rather. Where you have we have 3 fingers, maybe 4. It seems like it is 4 because you have 3 right here. 3 right here. And then 1 thumb to hold the sword somewhere over here. Same here, you have 1 finger right there. And then 3 fingers right here. There you go. And then it tapers off into the waist right here. And then it goes wider again into the rest of the body. Basically the horse body, you could say, which would be down here. So something like this. Okay. So now that we kind of identified the body, you could also argue that we want to include the weapon. We could do that. I think I want to focus on the body more today rather than the weapon. So we're going to exclude the weapon from this character. But if we now, for example, remove the silhouette, we can see what the general shapes are basically. So we've simplified the body into the most simple shapes of it. We basically we started with a very, very detailed piece with all these individual like details, like the different muscle groups, the different like structural changes here. We have these ridges right there. We have some right here. We have the different muscles. We have these small bumps right there. So we have all these small details that we can see here that are important for the sculpt, but they don't necessarily matter when we want to start with the sculpt. Generally speaking, if you want to start a sculpt, it is always the best to start as simple as possible and then add more and more and more and more detail the further you go. So what we want to do is we want to basically grab the detailed reference. We want to simplify it as much as possible so that we can then begin simplified and become very detailed. That is basically, it's basically like a boomerang, you know. You start detailed, go simple, you go simple, and then you end detailed basically. That's basically the process that I at least use. You know, maybe other people do it differently, but I think from what I've heard so far is most people do it this way. So yeah, so we've basically then made the silhouette so that we already removed the entire sort of detail that we have of the body. We've only really looked at the silhouette so that we can really only focus on the big shapes. We don't really need to see like the bumps and all that. And then we've simplified it even more by drawing out all these different pieces. And then we end with something like this, where we have this round head, let's say, or maybe this quadratic head with 3 horns right here. Same here, 1 in the middle and 2 on the sides. We have these big arms, very round arms too, and then we have these hands with 4 fingers, 1 thumb, and 3 fingers and 1 thumb. And then it gets slimmer a little bit, like a bodybuilder, you could say. Slim waist until it then goes wider again for the rest of the body. As I said before, for the sculpt that we want to do today, I think I want to focus more on the upper body rather than the rest. So we're going to do that. Yeah, but we could now, if you wanted to, we could go 1 level higher, for example, and look at the, I guess, the secondary details like the eyes, maybe even these mandibles here, if you wanted to. But I think now that we have the basic shapes, we can begin sculpting, and then we can do that in Blender. So let's get into Blender now. There you go. We begin with a sphere, and let's actually import both images. I want to import the simplified version and then also the detailed version. So let me save those real quick and then we can begin. Okay. So we not only have the, oh, that was the wrong one. There you go. We not only have the detailed version right there, but we also have the simplified version. We're going to begin with this one because, well, that's basically the first thing that we want to do today, or that we need to do for this process. We're going to begin very simple with a sphere, turn that into this shape, and then once we have this shape, we can turn it into, oh, hello, this shape. There you go. The reason why we don't go immediately into details, so another workflow we could use is we could begin, basically we can shape this sphere into a horn, and then you could extend the horn further into the head, maybe into the eyes right here, and then you could extend it more and then include the, and then shape the head. Maybe then once you have the head, you could shape the upper body and then shape the arms. The reason why we don't do it this way is basically because once you've detailed something, once you've detailed, for example, the face, it is very hard to change it in a broad way. So basically, if you, for example, sculpt and you sculpt the head and then you add the chest region, or you add the chest, for example, and then you add the shoulders and the arms, once you have everything, maybe then at some point you notice, oh, wait, now that I've added the arms, it seems like the chest or the upper body looks very thin. Maybe it looks very, very, very short, I guess. Maybe, you know, it looks very weird. Let me change the proportions. It is very, very hard to, or it's harder to do that with a very refined sculpt, rather than if you do it in the beginning. You can lay the groundwork first, just how we do it for a house, for example, before you go and add the, I guess, furniture afterwards. If you do it before, if you lay out the foundation first, you can basically have like these different stops in your scope where you can make sure that everything looks good. You don't need to spend like 3 hours on every single detail for the arm before you add or for the upper body before you add the arms, only then to realize that the upper body looks weird in relation to the arms. So you need to change the upper body. Why not just shape everything first to see if the proportions work, so that you can then go into more detail after the fact, before you spend that much time detailing the upper body. You know, that is basically the idea behind it. Going from very, very rough to very, very detailed, so that we don't spend a lot of time detailing and then realizing that the rough part looks weird, you know, basically. You can't build a house without a good foundation, basically. So yeah, we're going to begin with that. We're going to begin with a simple shape. So we can switch to this one. I think if we look at this, the best way to utilize the sphere is we could probably use the sphere as the middle part, the chest region. It looks very round already. It looks like a sphere, looks like a ball. So the next step would basically be to create sort of the silhouette out of the sphere. Of course, via sculpting. So the next step would be to add the arms, turn this more into the upper body, add the arms, add the head, the horns and all that. That's going to be the next step. So yeah, let's do that. Of course, when it comes to sculpting, one important part is that you make sure that well, you know, the more practice you had sort of practicing anatomy, or yeah, practicing anatomy, observing anatomy, the easier it's going to be for you to sculpt. For example, the character is very anatomy heavy, for example. You have a good reference for what the anatomy looks like, but it's still different when you want to sculpt it. So what I mean by that is basically the oh, hold on. Okay. You might see the muscles from one angle, but you don't necessarily know what they look from a different angle until you've practiced them like through anatomy practice, or whatever you want to do to practice them. Until you've done that, you don't really know what they look like from a different angle. So you might have a reference that shows you exactly what the anatomy of a character looks like in that perspective, but that doesn't mean that you can perfectly sculpt it. Because to sculpt something, you not only need to know what it looks like from one angle, but also from another. Otherwise, it would kind of look weird. It would look good from one angle, but it probably wouldn't look good from all angles. So this is the head. I'm gonna simplify it as much as possible, of course. There you go. I'm basically only really trying to recreate what we have there. So we have the head right there. We have the shoulders on the side. Should be somewhere over here. Invert, so these are the shoulders. Let me actually pull them a little bit higher. There you go. Perfect. These round shoulders. Okay. And then we have the arms too. With the upper arm here, which roughly ends at the chest, where the chest ends, roughly over here, and then we have the rest of the arm too. What I like to do for arms is I like to stump them like this. I like to sort of smooth them in the direction that I want to continue them. So for example, I need to add the lower arm still, the forearm. So I'm gonna sort of smooth them in the direction that I want to add the forearm. And then I can mask out this area again, like this. Invert it, and then I can extend it. There you go. Okay. Make it nice and round, just like the reference. Ends pretty thin. There you go. And then we have the hands. Hands are a little bit more detailed, so let's see how much detail we can put into them for the first layer. Pull them out. Okay, is that a good size? I guess so. Can't really see it that well yet because we only have like a small strip. So the more you sculpt something, the more you're going to get comfortable with the different shapes. You can see, for example, for characters, it's different seeing something in a sculpt rather than being able to sculpt it. So you might see something very, very, very easily, like, oh, okay, that's what the muscles look like. But that doesn't mean that you can sculpt them. And with more and more practice, you're going to get better and better and better at actually sculpting them. So don't necessarily, I guess, like, you can't just say like, oh, I have reference, I don't need to practice sculpting a certain area. That's not going to help you, especially if it's 2D reference. If it's 3D different reference, it might be different. But if it's like 2D sketches, for example, it's not going to help you with sculpting anatomy, because 3-dimensionality is something very different to 2-dimensionality. Okay, we have the thumb, and then we have 3 more fingers right here. Let's add the thumb first. Okay, we have the thumb, and then we have the other 3 fingers. So the other one, what I like to do is I like to just make 3 selections that I can then pull out. So I like to smooth it, and then I like to do 1. Maybe they will connect a little bit because the resolution is pretty low, but that's okay. I want to separate these a little bit more here. There you go. Separate them, and then include this one into the sculpt too. Invert it, and grab the snakehook brush to pull it out. So that we have all 3 fingers, like this. So as you can see, I'm not necessarily talking about every single tool that I use, because I mainly want to talk about the sort of like the steps, not necessarily the tools that I use, but rather the sort of the steps that I take from beginning to end. So, I mean, we can cover them real quick, what tools I use. The tools that I use for my sculpts generally are the, number 1 is the clay strips brush. Reason being, the clay strips brush gives you a lot of utility. It lets you create volume like this. It lets you, or add volume, it lets you remove volume pretty quickly. It has this very unique look where it creates this cube-like shape. So as you can see, if I draw, it's hard to see if we have low resolution. So if we increase it, you can see it better. You can see that we create this sort of cube-like, it's like this cube-like brush, which sort of aligns with the rotation of the brush, which can give you nice structures that we can use for our advantage when you sculpt it. The next one would be the crease brush. Crease brush is very useful for stuff like detailing. So if you want to have edges that are very detailed, you can use that one. You can press, usually what the crease brush does is it creates creases, of course. So, you know, does this, it cuts into the mesh and then pulls it together to create these very, very sharp creases. But you can also press Control so that you invert the tool, so that you pull out geometry, and you could create these sharp edges outwards. The next one is the move brush or the grab brush. Basically what that does is you can select a certain piece of geometry, and you can move it. It follows the movement of the cursor basically. This way you can sort of reshape some certain areas. Next one would be the mask brush. Mask brush basically just excludes certain geometry from any brush that you use. So if I now use the clay strips brush, you can see I can't use it on the black part here on the mask basically. So that can be very useful too. Next one would be the snakehook brush. Snakehook brush is similar to the grab brush in the way that it grabs geometry and then moves it in a certain direction. But the snakehook brush is affected by dynamic topology in a way where if you pull it far enough, you create new geometry that extends basically the mesh. So this one's used for like horns or for tentacles or whatever you want to use it to create, yeah, more geometry to shape it into something like this. Very useful for either to make big adjustments for shapes. So I would rather use the the snakehook brush to move these hands, for example, because it's easier rather than the grab brush, just because it's like, yeah, so much stronger. You can also increase the strength, but yeah, I like this one. I like to use this one more for finer adjustments. And then we have the pose brush, which I don't use that often. But if you want to, for example, repose a character, I can use that one to repose them. Like this. Ooh. Yeah. Do I have more? Pinch magnify. When did I use that? I don't know. I don't really use the pinch magnify. But those are basically the tools that I use the most. Welcome back, Hustler. Hope you had a great day. Hope you enjoyed your day. As you can see, we're in the process of creating an amazing sculpt. Yeah. Let's finish these hands, just kind of blocking them out, and then we can go to the next part. To the next step. So basically the idea is the first block out phase is not really where you detail out the whole thing. It is more to lay out the foundation, and once the foundation looks good, you can focus on the next details basically. you can focus on the first level of details. Mesmerizing. Okay. Oh, we have the arms right here. We have the body. We have the head. The thing that is missing are the horns. So let's add those now. We're gonna add the middle thing first, which so it should somewhere over here. Right there, invert, and pull it out. That's where I, for example, use the snake hook brush. So I'm gonna pull it out. There you go. Smooth it. Oh, I also use the smooth brush. The smooth brush I usually use by holding shift on any brush to smooth geometry, basically. There you go. And then we have 2 more on the sides. So somewhere over here. Invert it and grab the snake hook brush again to pull it out. Maybe that's a little bit too big. What? That doesn't matter, we can just pull it in. There you go. Okay. So many bots. Why are there so many bots right now? Google. Come on. Get it together. Fix this problem. Okay. So now that we have the general shapes, we basically created what we can see here, the general scribble. We can now basically turn these big shapes into more detailed shapes. So the next step would be to look at the individual pieces, so like the head, for example, or the body, the shoulders, the arms, whatever, and focus more on the individual shapes to make them look more according to the actual sketch that we can see here. We can maybe even look at the what would you call it? We can maybe look at the proportions a little bit to see if it fits. I think it fits. There's one more thing that we actually forgot, or I forgot, which is the piece down here, the waist. Let's add the waist real quick, and then we can continue. Grab it and pull it down. There you go. Okay. Perfect. Let's save it real quick, and then we can go into the next step. What? Hold on. Okay. Let me drink something real quick, and then we can continue. Are you eating enough? I think it's just the light that is right above me. It's somewhere over here. Ooh. So it's like perfectly exposing my cheekbone. Okay. So now that we have the big shapes, we can kind of see if everything looks right so far. One thing that I've noticed is the upper body looks kind of weird right now. That is something, for example, you can't really see in the 2D reference in this one or in the other one. What the character would look like in profile view. So that is just something that you maybe have to interpret yourself. So that's what I'm doing right now. Sort of, you know, looking at what you've seen before and trying to put that into this piece here. Looking at what, like, you know, real life people, or like what the best real life reference would be that you can come up in your mind to use that as guide for this piece too. Okay. I think we're on a good path here. Maybe the hands look a little bit weird. There you go. Okay. Okay. So now that we have the basic shapes, I think everything looks pretty good in terms of proportions so far. So we can go into the next step. We can begin with we can detail out the big shapes so that it looks more like the character that we can see in here. So now we can look at the character and kind of see the, I guess, the overall structure. So we can now look at the shoulders, what they look like. We can see, look at the biceps. We can look at the chest. Look at the rib cage. You can look at the head, what those plates look like, the shape overall, how the shape gets defined here in the middle, for example, what the eyes look like. So stuff like that we try to sort of simplify still in our brain. I don't want to go into like 100% detail immediately. I still want to simplify it a little bit, but I still want to, you know, bring this closer to what we see here, basically. So the next step is to do that. I think we're going to begin with the body first. So I'm going to go over everything. I don't really have like a set, I guess, base. A set sort of, what could you say, like a set workflow? Like, okay, I always go from body to head or whatever, or head to body. It's really only determined on what I focus on right now. So sometimes I may focus on the body first, sometimes I may focus on the head first. It doesn't really matter, or it doesn't really, like, I don't really have like a set workflow for that or a set routine. So we're just gonna do what we think needs to be adjusted. One thing that sort of jumps out to me immediately are the shoulders. So let's focus on the shoulders first. The shoulders, you can see, have like this very, very distinct shape here, this heart shape. So let's put that into the sculpt. It goes forward and then together here to shape something like this. There you go. So that's the shoulder. There you go. Of course, we always use symmetry, because without symmetry, we basically we're sculpting half as fast. Why would we do that if we can also just enable symmetry down here? Symmetry X. You know, why would you not use that for any sculpt? There are parts where we want to have asymmetry, but they can also come later. So we don't need to focus on them right now. Okay. So the shoulders definitely look immediately better than they did before. Let's continue with these arms first. We can also see, or actually, no, I want to go to the chest first. So the chest, you can see, it's sort of, you can see this line right here that continues all the way into the middle, right here, that I kind of want to create right now. So we go from here all the way into the middle, like this, to create the chest outline up there. And then we can do the same down here. You can see it goes, we have this diagonal line right here, which would probably look something like this. And then we have this, I don't know, like oval shape. It looks like it's very wide down here. I mean, up there, and then gets thinner as we get closer to the armpit. So we begin here, and then we go like this. There you go. So we've copied what we can see here for the chest. I'm going to keep it there for now. We can detail it out a little bit later. I want to focus on the rest first. We can maybe even continue with the upper body. You then can see the second part of the chest, this piece right here, this triangle, you could say. Let's put that in here too, which would look something like this. Okay. There you go. And then we have the abs, let's say. The insect abs that sort of form this circular shape. Looks like this. I'm not going to go into the individual abs right now. I want to focus on the bigger shapes first. We also have the rib cage that you can see right there. So let's add that one too. It sort of aligns with this line here, with the middle line right there. If we follow this line, it kind of goes into this curve and then into this curve too. So we have this nice little S curve or C curve right here. We can copy that into our sculpt too, going from here all the way around to right there. There you go. As you can see, I'm only really using the crease brush right now to kind of determine the different pieces of the sculpt. I'm not necessarily, I guess, first I'm drawing all of them on, and then I can detail them out some more. This way I can sort of, I guess you could see, see the proportions and see if I need to shift something around. So for example, if the chest looks kind of weird, I can pull it down, for example. I can make it wider or whatever I need. If only really drawing it out, I can immediately see what pieces might need to be bigger, might to be smaller, before I need to go into more detail. Or before I go into more detail. There you go. Let's continue down here. We have a few more things down here. We have these two pieces, these two plates, which start right there, where it goes into the C shape. So it would be somewhere over here. Then it goes down like this. And then we have this piece right here, which goes like this to the back. You're blocking everything out? Exactly. Right now I'm just blocking everything out. I basically create these silhouettes for all the different pieces. Okay, so we have the front. Does it look weird? I think it fits quite well. One thing that I kind of noticed, I feel like it feels like the back is wider than our sculpt. The sketch back looks wider than our sculpt. So I'm gonna make it a little bit wider right here. Maybe even the waist. Or no, the waist looks pretty good. Pull it apart. There you go, that's better. Maybe we can pull this a little bit wider too. There you go. Okay. Let's go into the neck. With the neck, you can see we have this middle piece right here. And we also have the separation from, well, yeah, we have a separation first of all. We have a separation from the head going into the neck, going into the body, which would be beginning right here on this line. You can see the neck begins right here. It connects to the upper body right there. We already have this line, which is good. This line goes all the way around, of course. There you go. And then it connects basically the neck to the head. Where does the head begin? Somewhere over there. Slightly underneath the horns. So why don't we make a little line here underneath the horns, which then goes into the middle. Like this. And then maybe in the back too. So we've now separated the neck from the head. Like this. And then we can focus on the head a little bit more. I mean the neck a little bit more first. And we can sort of define those shapes a little bit more. The first one that kind of jumps out to me is this, the one in the front here, the Adam's apple, you could say. You can also see it here, this one. We have this nice V shape here for the neck. Let's add that one, which would look something like this. Going maybe around the entire head. There you go. Looks like a scarf right now. And then I think that's all we really need for the neck. Although, let me do this one too. There you go. Okay. Let's go to the head now. I guess the biggest change that we need to add right now for the neck, I mean for the head, is I think I need some more room. Actually, no, I don't need more room. I just need to pull this region here, where the face basically is, a little bit lower. As you can see, this space from the chest to the actual beginning of the head is quite long in our sculpt. If you compare that to the reference, this area is quite short until we reach the mandibles. So I kind of just want to make some more space. That also enables us to have some more room for the face overall. Okay. Then we can also see it has like a, its head is not just like a stump. It actually protrudes forward in two different directions, or not in two directions, but it basically protrudes forward where the horn is, and then also down there for the mandibles. So let's do that right now. We're gonna protrude it forwards right here. We can also just move it with the grab brush like this. There you go. And then we're gonna do the same down here. We can maybe even use the scope. Let's begin with the crease brush. So we have the mandibles that could probably begin somewhere over here, right there, and then they protrude forward too. Something like that. Okay, so we've detailed the head just a little bit. We've added the face shape just very, very slightly. We've added the mandibles. We've detailed the horn a little bit more. Let's go to the side. As you can see, for the secondary horns, first of all, what we can see is that they actually don't point forward. They slightly point upwards, as it seems like. So let's change that right now. We can maybe even just use the snake hook brush to do that by rotating them slightly. And then pushing them upwards like this. There you go. That looks better. They also have a certain shape to them, which we can maybe do later. This edge right here and this edge, which shapes into this sharp ending right here, to this tip. We're going to focus on that later. Let's focus on the head shape first. The head shape, you can see, has a certain line that goes through or around the entire head. It begins right here at the tip of the nose, let's say, the horn in the middle. You can see this line going all the way to the end of the horn and then continuing to the side and underneath the horn, like a hat. Let's put that into the sculpt. So we're going to add this edge right here, and we're going to continue this line until it reaches the end of the horn, and then you go down and underneath the horn like this. There you go. So what I'm doing basically is I'm trying to find the shape defining lines, or yeah, basically lines that tell me what the more detailed shapes of the character are. You know, if you see like rendered out characters, you can sort of see the three-dimensionality, but there are certain edges or certain, I guess, shadows, maybe even certain highlights that sort of indicate what those shapes look like in 3D. So for these ones, for example, you can see that those ones will probably not cave in. They would probably be bumps facing outwards, like being round, like bald, I guess you could say, rather than caving in because of how it's shaded. We have the shadow down here and not up here. On this piece here, for example, we have the shadow down here rather than up there. If it would be up there, it would look like it's caving, but it's not. So we can see it is around facing outwards. Okay. So we have that one now. I think the rest looks pretty good in terms of the head. We maybe make it a little bit rounder, but I think we're already pretty good on that. Okay. What we could also add is like this crease right there, but I kind of want to focus on the shape defining pieces first. Now that we have the neck, we have the head, we have the chest. Let's go to the arms. The one that sort of, I guess, is the easiest one to see in the reference right now is the biceps. You can see for our character, he doesn't really have a biceps just yet. He has an arm, but as you can see right here, the biceps sort of goes in front of the shoulder. Right now, that's not really the case. There's no volume that can go in front of the shoulder. So let's add the biceps actually, right here. Just like this. Doesn't need to be beautiful. I just want to kind of introduce it into the scene, let's say. There you go. Okay. So now we have a biceps. Let's look at the rest of the piece. The next step would be, yeah, I mean, if we now have the biceps, let's go off of the biceps and see what the pieces are in relation, or how we can place the other pieces in relation to maybe the shoulder and the biceps. So we have the biceps right here. We have the shoulder right here. What would be in this area? If you look at this, we can see we have this piece here, basically like a representation of the triceps. The triceps would be, if you look from this angle, it would be somewhere over here. You can see we have a volume right there. We have a volume right here that sort of protrudes outward. If you look at our piece though, there isn't really a protruding volume right now. So what we can do is we can go in here and we can just add some more volume to create that protruding piece right there. So it's always what I like to use is like the silhouette to look at what sort of volumes are still missing. What I'm doing right here in the back, of course, is sort of using my knowledge that I have to fill the gap that is in the back we can't really see what is like behind here in the back of the arm. So I'm using my knowledge that I have to sort of interpret what could be there or what would most likely be there. So that's why I'm kind of continuing here. But now we have a triceps too. There you go. And if we look at the silhouette now, we can see we have the biceps right here, which is right there. We have the triceps, which is right here. And then we have the space in between. There you go. How long do you typically spend on blocking out proper proportions for a sculpt like this? I know it's an extremely important step since it can throw everything off, but I can get stuck on it at times. So I think let's answer the second aspect first. If you get stuck on continuing a sculpt, so if you get stuck on a certain part, whether it's sculpting, whether it's detailing, whether it's sculpting, whether it's creating the foundation, whether it's blocking out, whether it's maybe even finding reference, maybe it's even adding the details. If you get stuck on any of these parts, I think that is sort of due to being scared that the next step could ruin the work that you've done before. So you try to basically make sure that you know that the upcoming step will work as intended, let's say. That's maybe just pseudo psychology. I don't know exactly if that's the case, but that's what I would think, sort of, or that's how I would think. Like, oh, I don't want to continue just yet. I want to work on this a little bit more. I want to prepare it to be. I want to prepare it to be great. I want to work on it a little bit more so that I know that when I continue, it's gonna look good. I think sometimes, especially if you don't know exactly if it's gonna turn out well, maybe you haven't sculpted these pieces a lot yet, maybe you haven't, sculpted at all yet. I think it's important to sort of separate yourself from your work in the way that it doesn't really matter if you screw up this sculpt. The thing that matters is that you learn from why you've messed up and that you don't do it in the next one. I think the best sculpts that you can do to practice is the ones where you mess up. Because if everything works perfect, oftentimes you don't really know what you could do better next time. So, yeah. Basically, if you feel like you get stuck, just think to yourself, well, let's just continue, Maybe, maybe you feel like you need to work a little bit more on sculpt. You feel like you need to do a little bit more blocking out until you continue. Or maybe you kind of realize, well, I've been blocking out for a long time. Maybe it's already been a while. I think I should continue. And if you feel like that, I think it might be a good time to say, well, you know what? Let's just see what happens if I continue, Maybe you realize, well, it was too early, I need to block out a little bit more. Then next time you block out a little bit more. Or maybe you realize, oh, maybe I don't actually need to block out that much. Or maybe, everything turned out great. Yeah, it's mostly confidence, exactly. Always go into a scope trying to learn from the process. It's it's more the fear of getting it wrong, which holds you back, rather than the actual, basically. I think that's most of it. Why you could why you're getting stuck, because you want to get it right. So you don't want to mess it up, but the best thing that can happen to you is basically that you mess up, because this way you can learn the most, and you can, the only way to realize your mistakes is by doing them, basically. Okay, so now that we have the shoulders, we have the biceps, we have the triceps, and we have the upper arm basically done. Let's go into the forearm now. If we look at the forearm, we can see in relation to the biceps, for example, we have one shape right here that gets wider. And then we have one right here that gets split up into 2 to 3 pieces. Let's do the overall shape first. If you look at the biceps, or if you look at the arm right now, we can see this part here is pretty wide and then gets thin again. For this one, it stays pretty flat and then it goes a little bit thinner. So what we can probably do is we can increase the volume here a little bit more. So let's just pull this out just a little bit more. There you go. give it some more room. Okay, so now we have some more, this shape looks a little bit more like the one that we can see there. Okay, so now that we've adjusted the shape a little bit more, the silhouette basically, we can go into the shapes that we can see in relation to the biceps and triceps. I think the easiest one to nail is the one that you can see right here, this piece. This piece is basically starting in between or underneath and in between the triceps and biceps. So somewhere over here, right there. And then goes to the wrist. So we can begin right here. It does this, it goes around the biceps and then stays in the middle of the arm to then end up at the wrist. So we go around the around the biceps, go into the middle, to the end, to the wrist. And then for the other side, we do this S shape, going inwards, outwards, and then inwards again. So we begin inwards, outwards, and inwards again. And then we have that first shape. There you go. Perfect. Now that we've laid out the first shape, let's continue with the second one. I guess the easiest one to do, because it's not really, I guess, specified too much, is the one that we can see here, the bump. I guess that one is pretty simple. We can just kind of self-interpret it, I would say. Or we can look at the other arm. The other one has a different angle, which we can look at. You can see here, we have this sort of shape that goes around the upper arm. It looks like a separation where this cylinder goes into this cylinder. So if we kind of want to adopt that for this one too, we have this very specific line here that we can add here too, right there. And this way we can already, add the, we can add this piece. Let's go to the other one that we can see on the right side, which is this plate right there. This plate seems to it begins at the wrist right here. So somewhere over here. And then it kind of follows the shape of the first piece that we've added, but it, has a certain offset. So we're going to do the same here. We're going to follow the shape, but with a certain offset. Go around here, and then end somewhere over here. What we can see also is that there's like a small piece separating these two pieces. So if you go closer, you can see this piece right here separates this plate from this plate, which we can just add maybe here. There you go. Okay. We don't really see much more on this hand, so we can interpret some more. One thing we can see maybe is this piece here. I think that we can add that later. I think that would be more part of the overall, maybe, let's say, the overall detail, like smaller details. So what I want to do now is I want to kind of end the arm by using the knowledge that I already have to kind of add the rest of the shapes. So we could do something like this here. There you go. And then I think that's pretty cool. There you go. Okay, so we have the arms, we have the chest, we have the shoulders, we have the neck, we have the head. I think one more thing that I want to do is I want to detail the other horns a little bit more. So let's do that real quick. You sculpt for yourself, so you just have fun. You'll have time to worry when you have clients. True. That's really helpful. I didn't think that I would be afraid, but I think you nailed it on the head. Thanks as well. Yeah, I think that's mostly what it is. I could be wrong. Maybe there's something else too. But I think that's sort of the thing that's causing the doubt, let's say. Okay, so if you look at the shape of these two horns, we have two examples. We have this one and we have this one. We can follow the silhouette first. The silhouette looks pretty pretty different. This one to this one, for example. The biggest difference is that this one ends sharply. This one too. So let's change that first. Let's make these end sharply. We can just extend them a little bit, make them sharper by smoothing them too. There you go. So they're a little bit sharper. And then let's look at the edges that define the shape. We have the first one, which is the silhouette, which goes down first and then up into the tip. And then we have this edge here too, which is slightly offset from the other one, creating the other edge, which also ends in the tip. So we have this plane that gets created right here. If we were to draw it, hello, there you go. It would look something. That's a weird color. Hold on. So if you draw it, it looks something like this. We want to copy that into our sculpt too. So we're going to use the crease tool again. We're going to create the first edge right there, which goes all the way to the end, to the tip right here. And then we do the same for the other one, which should be somewhere, as if you can see it right here, somewhere right there. Of course, we have symmetry on, which means if we don't know where we want to place it right there, we can also work from here and place it on this side. So now that we know that we want to place it there, we can use this edge and bring it to the tip right there. There you go. And we've already created the plane. There you go. Okay. We have another defining edge, which is this one right here. And it seems like because of the shading that the rest of the sculpt here, hold on. There you go. The rest of the sculpt, or the rest of the shape right here, is pretty flat. If I were to draw this, it would look something like this. So that's what we want to try to implement in here too. The one thing that is missing right now is this line right here, for example, and this edge too. And then the flat surface right here. So let's add that first. So we're going to begin with the line, the silhouette line. How can I delete this? There you go. We're going to begin with this edge right here. Sculpt it in. Make it nice and sharp. Perfect. So we have that one there. And then let's smooth out this area. Or before we do that, let's add this line here. Okay. There you go. And then once we have this line, we can smooth this area a little bit using the smooth tool or smooth brush. And that looks already way better than it did before, if I say so myself. There you go. Okay. Another thing is we can't really see what's behind the we can't really see what's behind the horns, so on the other side. So we can interpret again. I would interpret that it looks pretty much similar to the other side. So now that we already have the edge, we can basically just smooth it. We can maybe add another line right here, like this. There you go. And then we can smooth the surface right here too. There you go. And then we have some nice horns. One thing that sort of one thing that I kind of see is that this edge right here is higher in the sketch than it is right for us. For example, you can see here, if I would continue this line, it would end somewhere underneath the eyes, roughly above the mandibles. If I would do that here, you can see the line is very much below the eyes, which should be somewhere over here. And they're basically on the mandibles. So what I want to do is I want to move these a little bit higher. We can just use the grab brush, push it up a little bit. There you go. And that's why I don't want to go into detail just yet, because I still want to do some proportional changes if I need to, without having to ruin big parts of the sculpt. I think that's the better spot. There you go. Okay. You could also look at the proportions of the horns themselves. They look pretty big. Maybe the shapes could be refined a little bit more. I think before I want to go deeper into that, I want to look at the front horn first. You can see the front horn looks a little bit different yet still. One big change is that it sort of has this curved shape. Ours looks very straight right now. I think what I want to do is I want to lower it a little bit like this, and then also add this nice curved shape. So I think this already looks way better. Perfect. Okay. I think that's a pretty good, we're on a pretty good path now. Let's save this real quick. And then we can look at the overall outline so far. So now that we basically, let's recap real quick. We basically now, after defining the big shapes, the biggest shapes, basically define the overall body of the character, like the arms, like the upper body, the waist, and the head. We now went ahead and separated those pieces and created some, like we separated them into these individual smaller pieces to define the shapes a little bit more and add some more detail to the sculpt. This one is basically, you could say, medium detail. Maybe you could also consider it like big detail still. But this is basically like sort of the step where you shape the body. Usually what I do to determine where I, for example, define the areas, or where I basically, the way I basically create all these different separations is by relating them to a different part of the body. So what we've done is we began by starting with the shoulder right here. So this shape of the shoulder, this heart shape, you could say, or apple shape. I began with this one. So we sculpted it, we added it, and this was basically the foundation that we used to place everything else. So we went ahead, okay, now we have the shoulder. Now we can say, okay, next to the shoulder right here, we have the shape. So then we added this shape. And once we had this shape, it opened up this area here that we can then define. Because once we have this one, we have something to relate all the other stuff to, until we basically defined everything in our sculpt. And now we have this. Perfect. What we can do now is, after defining the shapes a little bit more, we can maybe look at the overall, I guess, body a little bit more and see if there's something we want to change. One thing that sort of jumps out to me is the back. We haven't defined the back yet, so let's do that. Of course, we don't really have a reference for the back, so we can, I guess, interpret it ourselves again. So let's do that real quick. I'm gonna do that quickly because that's more, I can't really tell you why I do things very quickly. So this one will be a little bit, I guess you could say, this part will be more like a I guess like explaining why I do things here right now could take longer than I want. So I really only want to do this real quick so we can get to the next step that I can explain a little bit easier. So what I basically do is I would interpret the back because of how I guess the creature looks, as if it looks like a human character, like a bodybuilder character. So I basically now just draw in the human anatomy of like a bodybuilder with the big neck muscle right here, the big neck muscle. We have the back of the shoulder right here. Hold on, I have a reference here too. Oh. Which would look something like this. There you go. Okay. So we have this piece here. We have the latissimus, which then goes into the middle and ends somewhere over here. We have the middle, the spine, and then we have the butt, which is we have also a few more things here. We have the middle part of the back, lower back, and then we have the butt right there, which probably wouldn't be here because he immediately goes into the horse body. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good foundation now. We've added everything that we need to, yeah, now that we basically drawn out all the shapes, we can detail them a little bit more by defining them a little bit more. So stuff like the, we can now consider the lighting a little bit more. We can see, well, as we said before, like the lighting tells us a lot on how those shapes are supposed to look like. For example, for this one, generally, if you, for example, draw a ball and the shadows at the bottom, like this, and we have a nice little highlight right here. There you go. That's the highlight, you know. It would probably suggest that, maybe even like this. Ooh, we have a shadow right here. That would probably suggest that the light comes from somewhere over here and shines down on this ball. And considering this, we can sort of interpret all the shapes that we can see here, and sort of interpret what they are supposed to look like in the sculpt or in 3D space. So if you, for example, look at the chest piece or at the chest plate here, we can see the light is somewhere at the top, and we have shadows down here. So it's probably lit from up here somewhere, and it's a shape that looks something like, something like this. So doing that for all the pieces, maybe this one too. This one would probably look something like this. And this one would look something like this. Doing that for all the pieces basically mentally lets you sort of define the different shapes so that you can then basically, oh, for this one we already have a line, for example. That's even better. There you go. So this is basically what I do mentally to define the shapes some more. Now that we've drawn out the shapes, we can sort of look at what the volume of the shape is. You know, thinking like the way we could interpret this wrongly, let's say, would be that this part here is caving in so that the lines would look something like, I guess, like this. See, it already looks kind of weird. So it's kind of caving in. It's not really the case, you know, it's going outwards. It's voluminous. So that's why this one looks so weird. So basically what I do now is I look at all the shading, all the rendering done in the sketch to define or determine what the shapes look in more detail, basically. For some I've already done that, for the shoulder, for example. But I'm now going to do that for especially the ones here in the middle part. For these ones, I've only really drawn them out, basically. I've defined the landmarks, so now we can go into what the shape actually looks like. Let me go and sit down real quick. Okay. Okay, yeah, now we're going to do that, basically. We're going to go over through all the shapes and sort of do these lines in our head. So these ones, as we said, point outwards. So we can detail that out some more. Right here, we can make them nice and round. Like this. We can define the shape some more, adjust the shape a little bit too. I don't want to make them too big, of course. Going to this piece here, this one is pretty flat actually. So I want to kind of keep that in mind. More like that maybe. And then for the rib cage here, you can see we have these different ribs here. So let's add those. We can maybe draw them out first, just using the clay strips brush, and then we can use the crease brush to define them a little bit more. There you go. They look pretty big right now. I think they're a little bit smoother. Looking at the reference, I'm going to smooth them out a little bit. There you go. Then we have this piece here. Okay. Let's go to the abs. The abs need some more work. You can see we actually have a different shape here. So let's adjust that real quick. Just slightly. There you go. So let's add the different abs here. We have the line in the middle. And then we have the, how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 3 that are just horizontal, like this. And then we have 1 that goes slightly like downwards. Okay, so now that we have the different ones, we've drawn them out. Let's refine them a little bit. They're already pretty round because of how we use the crease brush. So the only thing we really need to do to make them look a little bit smoother is we can, smooth them out a little bit. I really only tab the smooth brush here to smooth them out. I don't really like full on like use it like this because that is too strong. What I usually sometimes do is I want to, I guess, just lightly smooth something. I don't necessarily reduce the strength. I really only tap it like this. There you go. There you go. Let's go through the rest here. That's one. Then we have this one here. Okay. That's pretty good. So now we have that area, which I think is quite similar to the sketch. Let's continue with the arms. Actually, there's one thing that I want to change real quick, which is the neck area. I want to kind of push it back a little bit, like this. I think it needs some more room there. There you go. Okay. One thing that sort of bothers me right now is you can see, even just looking at the silhouette, we have a little dip right here, which isn't really the case here. This one is basically just like a triangle. So let's put that triangle into our sculpt too. We can just pull it out, I guess. Or we can sculpt it. I think sculpting is easier without ripping the arms off. There you go. So we're just going to add some more volume here to fill up what we see in the reference. So it transitions nicely to the head, or to the plate underneath the head. And then in the back, I'm just going to do it like this. There you go. Somebody just followed. Hold on. Who was it? Hold on. Thank you for the follow. Hope you enjoy the stream. Welcome. Programmanum. Thank you. Welcome. Hope you enjoyed the stream so far. If you're still here, maybe you're already gone. Who knows? As you can see, we're sculpting an insect centaur. Let's go to the shoulder. I want to change the shoulder just a little bit. There you go. Okay, I think we're pretty good on the shoulder though. I think the biceps looks pretty good too, if you look at it. Maybe a little bit more detail here. If you look at the reference here, you can see it sort of it has this C shape, but followed by like a U shape, or you could also say it's like an S shape. So it gets quite thin right here. For us, it's just like a C shape right now. So we can detail it out some more by pushing it in a little bit. Maybe like this. There you go. This decision, let's say, is not only informed by what we can see in the reference, but also something that I guess, learned about bicep anatomy. There you go. So it's, you know, it's not only what you can see in the reference, but also what you already know. Let's define the shape for the biceps a little bit more. This line right here, for example, would be somewhere over here, which looks like this. There you go. Otherwise, the biceps looks pretty good already. Maybe smoothing it out a little bit more here. There you go. Okay. Then let's go to the triceps. The triceps looks pretty good. There are a few adjustments that I want to do. I think it's too steep right here, so I'm just going to smooth it a little bit. It also looks like the dip right here is a little bit stronger, so I'm going to push it in like this. But otherwise, it looks pretty good. Maybe it could be a little bit like the crease between the shoulder and the triceps could be a little bit smaller. Maybe even like that. Okay. Let's adjust the triceps shape a little bit. We can't really see reference for this, so this is more what I guess think rather than what necessarily like you can see in the reference. Somebody else followed. Hold on. Sad Chi, thank you for the follow. Hope you enjoy the stream. If you're still here, welcome. So usually the triceps, looking at the reference, has two heads or two muscles that sit right here, and they sort of combine together into one here in the middle. The two muscles split in the middle right here, and then we have one big one and then one small one. The small one is on the outside, the big one is on the inside. The small one looks something like this, like a chicken leg, like this, or like a golf bat head. And then the other one looks very similar, but it's just a little bit bigger. Right here. There you go. Okay. There you go. The arm looks pretty good, actually. I don't know if we need to do much more with the arm. What we could add are these spikes here. I think those could be a good addition right now. So let's add them now. We're just going to go in here and sort of interpret how we could add them in 3D. We could do it either with, for example, the crease brush, just kind of pulling stuff out. Or we could also just use the snake hook brush and pull them out like this. There you go. Same for the other plate right here. There you go. And then maybe even in the front here. There you go. We see some more down there. So I guess we could do them here too. Something like this maybe. There you go. Something like that. It's hard to really see where they originate from, so I'm not going to go into too much detail there. But otherwise, I think the arms look pretty good already. Maybe we can go into the hands a little bit more, because they look pretty rough right now. We can see they're also separated into different, well, into a palm and the different fingers as well as thumb. So let's separate them first. We have the thumb, which is here, separated by this crease right there. Then we have the different fingers, which are also separated. Like, let's do it like this. Okay. And then this sharp edge right here. Okay. They're also separated, or well, they have a certain shape to them. Right here. First off, we have a cylinder that looks like this, and then we have this sort of scythe-like ending. This C shape, let's say. So let's add that one. We have the cylinder here. Right here. So that's the cylinder portion. Right here. And then it ends, maybe starting from here, in this very, very much scythe-like thumb tip, like this. Okay? We can maybe pull the thumb back a little bit. Looks quite far forward. Okay. Let's do the same with the other fingers. The other ones are more... The other fingers have 3 bones, so if you consider that, we would probably have 2 cylinders and then the scythe ending. So let's do that here too. It looks very, very messy because we don't have that much resolution, but that's okay. We can add more resolution later. Or maybe what we can also do is we can, you know, now that we have one more day, what we could do tomorrow is we could, after now blocking out the main part of the sculpt, blocking out the big shapes, tomorrow we can maybe go into the mental steps of detailing the character or refining the shapes even more. I think that could be a good second part, because, well, I think detailing can so oftentimes take longer than blocking out. So I kind of want to, I don't want to rush it, you know. So tomorrow we're going to go into the, I guess the mental steps of, or the things that I think about when I detail stuff. How I do it, of course, too, with different tools and how I use them. There you go. 3 fingers right there. And then we have 3 fingers right here. And then, of course, on Thursday, we're going to have the next personal feedback session. So if you want to, you know, you want to join that, you want to get feedback on one of your art pieces, make sure to post them in the personal feedback channel in the Discord. Exclamation mark Discord if you haven't joined yet. Okay. And yeah, you can submit your pieces. And we're going to look at them on Thursday. Give them feedback. We already have a few. If you want to be one of those few, then make sure to join and post them there. Okay, it looks very messy, as I said, but at least we kind of laid out the base. It's very hard to create more finer details with this amount of resolution, so we're going to kind of leave it there. We can maybe see here, we have the palm right there too. The palm is right here, so we can maybe define that one too. Just very, very loosely. There you go. Okay, now that we have that, the hand looks pretty okay. Let's go into the other parts of the body to refine them a little bit more. Like the neck, for example. Now we can sort of turn this area here more into like an actual face with the 2 mandibles. We can give this neck some more shape here. Right here. And all that just by analyzing the rendering or the shadows on highlights of the original sculpt. If it's just a sketch, I think you know, that's what I mean with you have more room for interpretation. You can kind of interpret what it would look like, you know, in 3D a little bit more. If it's more defined, like this one, for example, you can rely more on the sketch. So, you know, also when you're looking for the right sketch, that could also be like a criteria for you. Whether you want to interpret more or you just want to, I guess, practice more. Or just do more rather than having to interpret everything. Okay. We have a few more things here and there to define, and then we're pretty good for the first step, for the first level of resolution also. Okay, so we have this plate right there. We have this area right here, and then we have the middle piece right here. Let's go into the head and detail that out some more. Before I do that, I kind of want to change the head shape a little bit. Is it too thin? I think we can make it wider in the back. I think that can help too. Okay. Let's go to the head now. Of course, for the head, we have the more detailed version right here. First thing we can see is that the mandibles are not connected in the middle, so let's split them right here. They're also in front of the head, they're not really part of the neck, so we're going to separate them right here. In the middle we have actually a second set of mandibles, it seems like. Let's create the first ones though. Right here. Always just sort of following the same, I guess, strategy that we followed before. Basically, not only looking at the silhouette to define the shape, but also looking at the shading. First, I'm looking at the silhouette to define the overall outline, and then afterwards I'm looking at the shading or the defining lines, highlight lines, for example, to define it some more. Let's head to the head. True. Okay, now that we have those mandibles, let's go to the other part, which is here in the middle. We can see this line going from the horn into the middle to the mandibles. So we're going to create that line right here, like this. We can also see that the shading sort of suggests that it's pretty straight right here. So let's do that here too. Right now it's pretty round, so we're going to smooth it to make it nice and straight, or smooth. Same up here. There you go. Looking nice. We're going to go here into the middle, continue this line all the way to the end so that we have this nice triangle shape. Then we can look at the line right here that sort of defines the horn shape and add that into the sculpt too. So it goes up to this edge and then in this S-shaped curve into the middle. We also have a small line in the middle right there that we can add right here. There you go. You can also see that this silhouette right here is a little bit higher than what we have right now. So we can probably, pull it up a little bit. So we're just going to do this. There you go. Perfect. Fixed. Nice. Okay. So as you can see, we've already detailed out the entire body basically. We've given everything some more detail, except maybe for the back. The back still needs to, we still need to do the back. We can also maybe define the head just very, slightly more before we need to go into more resolution. The amount of resolution that I use from the beginning is 20 with constant detail. I think that is a good resolution to begin with to block out. It's basically the resolution that lets you block out everything without or while still restricting you to not go into too much detail. The problem that I have with relative detail is that because if you zoom in, you sculpt with more detail, you can get lost in detail basically. You could say, hey, okay, I kind of want to work on the biceps a little bit, so let me define that a little bit here and there. But then you see, oh, I wanna, oh, it doesn't look that great. It looks pretty rough. Let's go a little bit closer and add some more detail. So then we have this line right here. The line looks still pretty rough. Let's go even closer. Let's add even smaller detail. And slowly but surely, you lose yourself into this very, very fine detail that doesn't really change the overall shape, but costs you a lot of time to detail, or a lot of time to refine, and which you don't really need to spend on it. It's not really well spent time. So why don't you just stick to one resolution size using constant detail like 20 to restrict yourself to not go into too much detail, but also not have too little detail to refine everything. I think 20 is like is a good mix between having or is right in between not enough detail and exactly as much detail as you need, or resolution for detail. So what we can also see, we can probably now place the eye. The eye is roughly underneath the corner of the horn, which we should see right here. So the eye should be somewhere right here. That's the eye. And then right above the eye, we have another small horn right there. Let's add that horn too. Should be somewhere over here. I'm just going to use the crease brush to pull it out, and then use the snake hook brush to do that even more. Somebody else followed. Hold on. Victor Art, let's say, or Victor 4RT. Hope you enjoy the stream. Thank you for following. Hope you enjoy your Tuesday too. There you go. And then we have the small horn too. We already have the eye placed. We can maybe define these shapes a little bit. We can see these fine lines here, and then also the mandibles. We can maybe go into those a little bit too, at least kind of outline them, which results in something like this. So basically what I sculpt in here basically is this shape. That's what I use to sort of define the mandibles right here. Perfect. There you go. So now we have the smiley face before his face with these big mandibles right next to them. I don't think we need to add the antennas just yet. We can probably add them later. But now we basically defined everything a little bit more. I wish I had the before and after. I should have saved it. But I guess, yeah, you know, at least I recorded it so I can go back later. But now we basically went ahead and did all of this, basically identifying what the shapes look like in more detail for the rest of the body to define all the shapes that we've, I guess, that we've created before. So before we've basically created the big shapes, we separated those into smaller shapes, and then we defined those smaller shapes in 3D space a little bit more, basically. So now everything makes more sense, everything is more coherent, everything yeah, fits very well together. Let's do the same for the back, and then we have a pretty good sculpt for today. Tomorrow what we're going to do is we're going to go into the next step, which would be adding more detail, going higher in the resolution. Basically, yeah, thinking about how we can identify the smaller parts of the sketch right here, like the small squiggly lines, how we can basically create good-looking details, stuff like that. That's what we're going to do tomorrow. We also have these muscles here. Hold on. These muscles are always weird. Okay, there you go. Define that shape, make it nice and round. Perfect. Go to this area here too. This one's nice and round, as you can see here. So that looks pretty good too. Transitions into the back right here. And then we have the lower back here. Perfect. And there you go. I'm just kind of adjusting everything a little bit. Yeah, so that is prepared for tomorrow. Okay, already beginning to slightly add everything or give everything slightly more detail, you know, not too much, just a little bit. Of course, the resolution inherently restricts the amount of detail that I can give. I'm just kind of defining the shape as much as I can. There you go. There we have today's end result. There you go. Magic, exactly. Do you like magic? I don't know. Like magic tricks, you mean? Every time I like the fact that I know that there's like the fact that I know that there's always a trick behind magic makes magic for me something like pretty boring. I don't know. It's like because I know that it's not like real magic, it's just like a good trick. It's sort of I don't really think about like, oh my god, how did he do it? Like I'm getting mind blown by like the trick. For me, it's just like, well, okay, like how did he get me this time? I don't know, it's weird. I don't really think of magic tricks like as something like super crazy and cool. Maybe that's just me. My dad is like super fascinated by them. He is always like, if he watched like a series or like a show where they explained how they made these crazy tricks, and then he's like, oh, come on, come on, come here, come here, come here, like screaming from the living room, like, oh, come here, you know, showing me this trick, and then, oh, look at this, isn't that crazy? And I'm just like, oh yeah, that's pretty crazy. Not really like, I don't know, I'm not really impressed by it that much. I don't know. Maybe. I'm not saying that I'm better than others. I'm just, I don't know. It's just not that interesting to me. Maybe I'm just not someone that appreciates the art of trickery as much as I should. You're performing magic right now. I don't know. I would consider this magic. There you go. And there we have the final result for today. So what we're going to do tomorrow, or, well, let me show you what we started with. There you go. We started with this. So we started with this and turned this one into this in a few, I think, easy to follow steps. Of course, the execution of these steps can vary between people. You know, if you are pretty new to sculpting, it can be harder to do it exactly like I did it, for example, here. So you might have like slightly different results than this one. Like the proportions might be a little bit different, you know. That is not necessarily that, like, that is only really because with more practice, you get better at gauging the proportions from one thing to the other, so that you at some point sort of your eyes can better determine how long, for example, the arms should be in relation to the rest of the body, for example. That is really something that you need to practice by just doing more and more sculpts. But I think, yeah, I hope at least that I explained how I create, or how you can create these pretty detailed and yeah, pretty complex looking sculpts in a reasonable and understandable way. Tomorrow what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and work on this a little bit more. What I want to cover tomorrow is, let's say, the mental steps when it comes to analyzing this reference and how we can get, I guess, smaller detail information or texture information from this sketch, and how we maybe even we can maybe even, you know, create them ourselves, adding more resolution to the sculpt and refining it a little bit more, like refining the edges, refining the shapes even more than what we could with this amount of resolution. And then we can finish the sculpt tomorrow. I'm probably gonna turn this into a small video too, maybe cutting it together a little bit, while still trying to keep the most, like, basically everything in there, and put that on my main channel too, so that it's a little bit more, I guess, compact. Stuff like me trying to fiddle around with Photoshop, you don't really need to see that, you know? So I can cut some parts out that don't really add more value to, or more information into the content. so that if you want to watch it later too, you can do that on the main channel. But this will be part 1. Part 2 will follow tomorrow. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed today's stream. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening, chatting, or just being here. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow for the second part. Maybe I'll see you next time. Until then, take care.